driving my 2013 Scion FRS. It is always a thrill to get in this car. Got some twists and turns coming up here. Ooh, this is where this car shines. And so we come to the purpose of this video. I'm going to review my 2013 Scion FRS after 9 years of ownership. I'm the original owner. Unfortunately, this is also an exit interview. Yes, this is an exit interview. I will be moving on from this car soon, but right now I think that maybe that's the wrong decision. This car looks awesome. Just look at the exterior design. It still looks just about as fresh as it did the day I bought it. I would say though, compared to some changes that have occurred, it's kind of an immature design, considering the way things are nowadays. The way that these headlights bulge out from the body, and at the back you can see the tail lights also kind of are proud from the body. It's kind of like a boy racer look, which is fine for the people that this car is supposed to appeal to, which is me actually. I like it. And what I've done with this car, of course, it's not completely stock. It's 1 inch lowered. It does have wider wheels. I've added a few plastic pieces around the edges of the car. You've got side sills, you've got a front diffuser, a rear diffuser, all of which sort of enhances, I think, the body. But the basic car is the way it was in 20. Now this car has 200,000 Ks on it, which is quite a bit. One of the higher mileage FRSs out there. And look what all that mileage has done. You can see that I've recently washed this, but the whole front bumper is dull. Damn those birds, why are you making so much noise right now? Come down here and fight like a man. It's a good idea if you really value your car to get PPF, protection film on the car when you first get the car. I thought about doing it, but didn't do it. I know it's expensive, but it's not a bad idea to do if you really care about the car and you're gonna own it for as long as I have, which is 9 years. Now, one of the things I really love about the design of these cars, the first generation, the FRS, the BRZ, is the way the fenders stick up. When you're looking at the hood from inside the driver compartment, you can see this fender sticking up proud over here, and especially on the driver's side right here. It's right in your field of vision. Maybe I'll show you what that looks like. There you go. See that prominent fender bulge right there, and then the flat hood. Nice. What that does is gives you a nice reference for where you are on the road. You can use this sort of bulge as a guide for the left side of the vehicle. And I think it just makes the car look sportier. Unlike other cars that have a stacked layer cake type of design, they'll have like a nice short curve into the hood here, and then the hood will take a step up, and then maybe another step up. Yes, like a BMW. And they do that because they have to fit the engine inside the compartment, and there's not enough room, but they want it to look sleek. So they give you sort of a fake sense of sleekness when they're not sleek at all. This car is sleek. Look at that. Up and over and down. It's sort of like a Jaguar, an old Corvette, a sports car. That's the way it should be. Of course, the reason why they can do that and why BMW can't is because this car comes with the Subaru flat 4 engine. Flat 4 means the cylinders are sideways instead of straight up and down. It means you can have a lower hood line, which gives you all sorts of advantages. Okay, so the exterior design is good. Now remember, this is a 4-seat car, so it doesn't quite have the awesome dimensions of a Ferrari or an Aston Martin. The rear wheel is a little bit further back, but that's to give room for rear seat occupants. And I really used that feature. Back when I got this car new, I had babies in my life. I was a father, and the baby seat fits back there no problem. So it was great for the first few years. Now my kids are kind of like teenagers. It's not really working out as well. But still, if you're a beginner family, this car will work with a baby seat. Okay, next step. Let's talk about the engine in this car. There we go, in all its glory. 2-liter flat 4. Cylinders go this way, not up and down. Manifold on the top, exhaust on the bottom, and this allows a very low hood line. As a matter of fact, the hood line could even be lower. As you can see, you have room here. That means you have room for a supercharger if you wish to do so. It may not be a wise idea because these engines can only take so much pressure, so you can only add so much PSI with a stock motor. As you can see, one of the things that really got me when I first got this car is that I like to work on my own car. I've got videos showing how to replace this, do that. You can do all this work yourself. There's room to work on this car all the way around. Now you just look at a modern BMW or almost any modern car, and it's almost impossible to work on the car. Everything's crowded in. This is still a simple, mostly analog car. Okay, the motor was rated at 200 horsepower on the dyno. It made around 170 horsepower. Not a lot, although the car only weighs 2,750 pounds or so, so it does move not too bad. One thing that doesn't get mentioned enough with this motor is that it's very sophisticated, especially in one way. It has port injection, but it also has direct injection. You can see right here, 4D4S, that stands for direct injection, but also port injection. So there's a direct injector and a port injector for each cylinder. That costs extra money. A lot of cars are going to direct injection because it increases fuel economy and various other things that are good about it. But the good thing about still having port injection is that it keeps your valves clean from carbon deposits. A big problem when you have direct injection is that the fuel is injected directly into the cylinder, and so it does not touch the top, the back sides of the valves, and so carbon does build up, which can be a problem after enough years. But on this car, because it has port injection, it doesn't have that problem, but it also has the sophistication of direct injection. So you get the best of both worlds in this basically fairly cheap sports car. Okay, so it's easy to modify this car. Basically for add-ons, for bolt-ons, it's very cool. You can put on intakes, you can put free-flowing filters, you can put on headers, exhaust system, and free up a few horsepower. Also, you can get tunes, which make the car run a little bit better, gets rid of a few problems, gives you a little extra horsepower. Nothing really huge on this vehicle, but you can get extra horsepower. As you can see on this car, over the years, I did try a few things. I did actually have an electric supercharger. I can put a link for videos I did on that years ago. It worked well and had a maximum of 5 PSI, which meant that it wasn't too hard on the internals and was pretty good. Going much higher than that, you're taking chances. But for bolt-ons, I would recommend headers and exhaust, and I got one more thing here. I got a lightweight crank pulley, and that made a big difference. When I had that on, I could definitely feel the difference. It reduces the rotational weight of the crankshaft. I've had this on for 8 years. It's caused no problem. Okay, and so I cannot talk about the engine without mentioning one or two words actually: torque dip. Yes, the torque dip, the famous or infamous torque dip in these cars is that from the factory, they have good torque at the beginning, a little bit of torque anyway, and then it dips right around 3,500 to 4,000 RPM, which is just when in the meat of the RPM band when you're doing street driving where you're going to shift or where you just want to have a little extra torque. This car doesn't have it. And it's very pronounced, it's very obvious, and it gives a very bad, uncomfortable feeling to doing the daily driving on this vehicle. Now a tune can take out some of that, headers can take out some of that, which I have on my car here, but it's still there. It's still there. And that is the difference between other 2-liter motors which have a more linear acceleration, which feels better. This car, you got the torque dip, and there's no way to really get rid of it completely. 200 horsepower sounds like a lot, but it doesn't really feel like a lot. This car is slower than many just regular cars, Camrys, minivans, everything else. And yet it's very sporty looking. People will want to race you, but you better not race them because you won't win them in a straight line. You got to concentrate and consider that this is a driver's car, a driver-centric car. It's made for the curves. So take it drifting, take it to the road course, take it through the cones, but don't really bother taking it to the drag strip. Oh, and also, if you're coming from a different brand, like perhaps Volkswagen, BMW, coming to this car, when you first start this car and you drive this car, you might think there's something wrong with the engine, but there isn't. It's actually kind of a coarse engine, if I might say. It makes a lot of noises. The direct injection makes a lot of noise. There's clicking, clanking going on, but that's normal. This car has been like that since I've gotten it. And so It doesn't mean anything's bad, but it is kind of coarse. It's a pretty sunny day, so there's lots of high contrast, so I don't know if you'll be able to see. This car has 200,000 kilometers, because I'm up here in Canada. The steering wheel has shown some wear. I don't know if you can really see. It's not a leather steering wheel. Didn't have that back then. This is a plastic one, but it has held up quite well, although the red stitching, as you can see, is coming loose. The rest of the interior has held up well. This car originally came with a ridiculous stereo system, but it's very basic. It has, a lot of people upgrade these. I've lived with this and it is simple, but then I'm a simple man. This car also has analog gauges with the tachometer front and center as it was meant to be by God. All your information is there, but of course you don't get any detailed information. You get just your gas, your temperature, your speed, and that's about it. It doesn't have a lot of modern electronics or features as a modern car would. And even for 2013, this was behind the times. If you're a techno geek, you're not gonna like this car, that's for sure. But if you're a driver, you'll like this car, because look at this seat. This hugs you, it holds you in. It's got bolsters, it's got thigh bolsters. It's great. Now, if you're a really big person, it might be a little too tight, but if you're average or smaller, this will be great. You got some wear on the side, but no rips. You have one rip here. You got to be careful getting in, or else this will rip eventually, but this is it. The carpet is not high quality in these cars. It does wear through, especially if you drive this car in the winter. It'll affect the carpet. The aluminum pedals have stood up well, but there is wear, as you can see on the pedals, but it hasn't worn through yet. But there is wear. Talking about the tech, I will mention one thing about the traction control. It's very poor quality in this vehicle. I normally, when I get in this car, turn off the traction control. Normally that's a no-no, but on this one, it did cause some problems. I've talked about this in other videos I've done, but the traction control is a little aggressive. You spin the wheels a little bit when you're turning, it'll cut power dramatically to the car. Dramatically. It's not subtle or nuanced at all. Now that has in the past put me into danger, because you are turning the corner, you're putting on the gas, there's a car that's close behind you, and then your engine just dies. And the car behind you is not prepared for that. They think you're going to accelerate, but instead you slow down. I've nearly been rear-ended a few times, and so that's why I turned the traction control off. Okay, so the interior is a little bit plasticky, a little bit immature in its design. There's very poor tech. But everything falls to hand. The controls feel fantastic. The shifter, the steering is electric, but it still feels great. As good as any Porsche. Yes, as good as any Porsche. First of all, this car is a great car as a first car now. The first generation has gone down in price. They're still available. What a great car this would be for someone to learn about car control. It's not completely practical, but if you haven't got a family, you're a young guy, a young girl, this is a perfect car for you. And this is what the car is great at, the curves. This is where you feel one with the vehicle, connected. Shifter, steering, everything works together to make you feel one with the car. It's like the car and me are one. I am one with the car. So the curves, you can place the car, you can feel the grip on the front tires. You can feel when it's getting close to letting go, which it has very high limits, so it takes a lot for that to happen. And yeah, this is what this car, these are the type of roads that this car is made for. All right, my conclusions on this exit interview. This car has been great. It's been a loyal companion. I've loved it from the first day. I'm gonna love it to the last day. You couldn't ask for a better car. It's reliable, sporty, somewhat practical, great car. Don't regret buying this car at all. The only reason I'm selling is because I have a new car in my stable that I have to concentrate on. All right, thanks for watching Photomikes Garage. I will see you next time.